There's a fish. What we got here? Look at that. We got ourselves a crappie. That's awesome. Look at that sweetness. Took a little time, didn't it? Hang on now, that's a nice crappie. You are a pretty crappie. Look at you. There might be more over there. That's what we're looking for. Look at that. A nice. There's one. Look at that. Nice. There you go. That's a nice gill. It's a nice bluegill. Built like a crappie. That's beautiful. All right, y'all, this is Two Passions Fishing. I'm going to show you a slip bobber setup for bluegill. And what's cool about these slip bobbers, I use a lot of them. Used for bluegill, I use all kinds of panfish. Used for white bass, use them for crappies and catfish. But the only difference is that there's a line difference, especially when catfishing, and bobber size difference. So bobbers are very critical the type of fish that what you're fishing for. But this one here is already set up, and I'm gonna get one set up here for you. It's a slip bobber setup for bluegill. It's light tackle. I always use light tackle for panfish. Why? For one, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It puts a nice bend in the rod. This is a cheap rod. It's one I had for several years now. It's cherry wood, Berkeley. It's a spinning reel setup combo. I probably paid 40 bucks for it. It's set up with 6-pound line. That's another thing. Use light line. I use anywhere from 4 to 6-pound line. It's perfect for panfish fishing. So here we are. I got a number 6 hook. Bait. That's a bait hook. I just suggest use like Aberdeen hooks, anywhere from size 6 to a size 8. You can use a size 8 hook. And here is the. Get close enough here. We got the sun over here, so it's causing some issues. Here's the bobber stopper. I got it up here. I got it set here. It looks like it'll be about 2.5 feet. Bobber stopper here goes freely. You can. The purpose of the bobber stopper is to set your depth. You go towards your hook to make it shallow, and you can want to go deeper. You go towards your reel, your rod, and you need your bead. Got your bead right here, so that'll keep from that bobber stopper to go inside that hole of your bobber. There's a hole inside that bobber. You want to make sure you got one of them. That's the only way it's going to work as a slip bobber. Small bead. Here's another thing. I think I explained the hook. Is a real critical thing. It works for me a lot. There's many times I'll lose my bobber when I get snagged on debris, rocks, logs, you name it, and lose my bobber. This is probably, well, for me it is. This is probably one of the most expensive pieces on this rig is the bobber. These bobbers, slip bobbers, are not cheap. They're pretty expensive. So what I do, I just get a small weight, a small little split shot weight right here, and tie it on the end. And I tie it anywhere from maybe a foot, because that's about as shallow as I'll go in the water, or maybe 8 inches from the hook. That's about as shallow as I'll go. Probably going, any less shallower than that. But what happens here when you got that weight on there, when you break off, the only thing more likely is going to break off is this hook. This is going to save everything up here. It's going to break off more likely down with your hook, and this split shot will save your bobber, your bead, and your bobber stopper. So that works perfect. It works for me all the time. So another thing with too, it serves actually 2 benefits having a split shot on here. It actually keeps your weight in the water. So keep that down, especially if you don't have any jig heads. Like this one here don't have a jig head. If I had a jig head up here, I probably wouldn't, that wouldn't be really a critical thing. But I would use this, just use a real small. This is actually a little larger than what I want, but it still works. That's the only thing I had laying around, and I just picked it up and grabbed it and put it on my line. But it goes smaller than that. Well, here, we got this. Let's go get one rigged up. I'll show you real quick how I do it. We'll get down there on the water real soon. Now this is another rod, a spin casting rod. It's a light one. The wind was blowing earlier, so it got my line all blowing up. So it's a real light rod. Caught a lot of bluegill crappie with this rod. This is Zepco rod, spin casting rod. So what you want to do is, first off, you want to get your bobber stopper on there. Now you got to remember, these bobber stoppers come also in different sizes. Because for the purpose of that, as you can see, the end of these eyelets on the end of your tip of your rod, they're very small. So you're going to need a small size bobber stopper to go through that. If you get too big, it's going to get caught in there. It's going to just tear it all up. It's not going to work for you. It's going to be a nightmare. Fishing nightmare for you. So what you want to do is get a small one. I'll show you even some bigger ones that I have. If I find them. There's some big ones in here if I can find them here for you. Try to give you an idea. Right here, probably a much larger one. That's a big one there. That's probably, I could use that for like catfishing, for that one there. So first thing you want to do is get a hold of your end of the line here. Oh, wind got a hold of this, so. Okay. And some of these bobber stoppers actually got slits in them. As you can see there, it's got a slit there. So if you make the mistake and pull it the wrong way, this plastic piece will come off. But always remember, some of those don't have it. So when you put this on, you want to make sure that plastic piece comes towards the end of your line, not towards your reel. And you want to make sure this goes towards your reel. Because you get that backwards, you're going to have a tough time getting that off. So you just slip that in there like that. If I can see what I'm doing. Okay, just like that. Take it back about a couple feet to get it out of your way. Now here it is. Now this already has got a slit in it, so either way it'll come off. But I'm going to show you, just in case, when it doesn't have that slit in that plastic, you want to pull this part, and careful pulling it out. You want to try and keep it together when you pull it off that tube. Just like that, and bring the tube right out at the end of your line. Just snug this up. Get a hold of the 2-end strings here, and just snug it up real slow. Then once it gets it together, snug it real tight. It'll come out like a real little knot. And we'll take care of that later. Okay, now we want to get your bead on there. That bead will keep from that knot going into your bobber. That bobber has a hole on top, of course. Itty bitty bead. You can use a big bead too as well. It don't make a difference. A little larger bead than this. Now this is always a challenge for me, since I'm an older guy. That hole is like microscopic hole. Guess I got my son in my favor here. I do have the sun in the camera, and I don't know what kind of video I'm going to produce here. Okay, I got the bead on. Now you want to get the bobber on. I use a real small bobber. You know, nothing big for the panfish. A little smaller. You give them small enough that we can detect the bite a little better. I'll make sure this is the right way. I've actually had this on backwards one time, putting it up, not thinking right. Make sure the color and your up part of your bobber's up. There's another little hole too. And sometimes these holes are filled in with plastic and stuff when they make them. It's a challenge for me. My eyes ain't as skillful like they used to be. Being 52 years old. There we go. We got that on there. Pretty simple. Okay, the next thing is we get the hook on here. I'm using a number. Make sure here. I want to make sure what number I got here. Number I'm using. Like a number 4. I'm using a number 4 Aberdeen hook. And we're going to get that hooked on there. Another challenge, little hole. I'm not sure what kind of faces I'm making here for you guys. You always make faces when you do stuff like this. At least I do. Okay, and what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna make a quick uni knot, one of my favorite knots. Just gonna twist it around like that. Boy, that sun's causing a lot of glare here. I don't know if I'm gonna get this right. I can't even see what I'm doing. Okay, got that. That's awesome. And bring it back to the other loop. I'll show you guys some of these knots that I use. One of my videos, just pull it snug tight. I usually like to moisturize a little bit so we get a little tighter. Use your handy toenail clipper. One of my favorite little clippers for fishing. And then, got the split shot weight that will save my bobber in case I snag up. I'm gonna take that up about a foot. Pretty small little weight, so my fingers are trying to get a hold of it. And the suggested bait that I have today is red wigglers and night crawlers. So the red wigglers are probably the what I'll produce today. I hope they'll bite today. We'll get these slip bobbers in the water and see if they'll produce us some fish. Okay, well, I'm gonna trim this real quick. You want to trim this back, this bobber stopper. Get the clippers on that. This little flingy left over here. Make sure it's tight too. Let's get them tight real quick. I like to wet that down too, make sure they're tight. You wet something down like that, usually it'll tighten up a little more. One. Two. Get them picked up later. Okay. Get that reeled up real quick. Got a lot of slack here. Beautiful. And here's your slip bobber setup. Okay, we got your bead. We got your, he's way back here. Bobber stopper, so it looks like I got it set already about 3 feet. Got that. And this bobber stopper, like I said again, will set your depth. You can go to 15, 20 feet. Just put your bobber out on the water, cast out, bring that bobber stopper way back and how deep they are, and just kind of go with that until you find the fish. We got the bead right here to keep that bobber stopper to go inside that bobber, because it'll probably bead on it every time you cast it. And there again, you got that weight right here that'll save your bobber right here. That slip shot weight. That's real critical for me. I saved a lot of bobbers. Could have lost a lot of money. An Aberdeen hook, real small little J hook. Perfect. Well, let's get out there. We'll get this on the rod. And we got 2 rods, we got bait. And we are ready to go. See you out the water.